All right, let's get ready to dive deep into the brain.
The brain.
Yeah, the most complex organ in the human body.
It is.
It is, you're right. And we're going to be unpacking some fascinating insights from Johns Hopkins Medicine about how this incredible command center works.
It is amazing how this 3-pound organ,
3 pounds.
yeah, controls everything that we do.
Everything.
Yeah, and there are still so many unanswered questions about it.
So many. We'll be exploring its structure, key components, and how it all comes together,
Right.
uncovering some surprising facts along the way.
Yes.
Did you know that the brain is actually 60% fat?
It's true.
It's true.
It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But that fat is vital for protecting those all-important nerve cells
Okay.
and ensuring smooth communication throughout the brain.
Okay.
The rest is a mix of water, proteins, carbohydrates, and salts, all working together to keep this complex machine running.
Yeah, speaking of keeping things running, how does the brain actually send signals throughout the body?
Well, picture this. A bustling city with a super efficient network of roads and communication lines.
Okay.
That's kind of what's happening in your brain.
Oh, wow.
But instead of cars and phone calls,
Right.
it's electrical and chemical signals zipping around.
Zipping around, yeah.
These signals carry specific instructions, controlling everything from muscle movement to how we perceive our senses.
So if I'm feeling sleepy, that's a different signal from the one that's telling my hand to reach for my coffee.
Exactly. Each signal carries a unique message, traveling along pathways.
Pathways.
Yeah, formed by billions of specialized nerve cells called neurons.
Wow, neurons.
Yeah, so think of neurons as the messengers of the brain, relaying information throughout the body.
Okay, so that's a lot of messages flying around.
A lot.
Let's talk about the heavy hitters, the main parts of the brain. We often hear about the cerebrum, the brainstem, and the cerebellum.
Yeah.
What makes each one so special?
Well, they each have distinct roles, but they work together seamlessly.
Okay.
The cerebrum is the largest part, responsible for those higher-level functions that make us human.
Makes us human.
Things like language,
Right.
decision-making,
Uh-huh.
reasoning,
Yeah.
even creativity.
Wow.
They all originate in the cerebrum.
So is that where my personality comes from?
Yeah.
Okay, what about things like temperature regulation
Mm-hmm.
or processing sensory information?
The cerebrum handles all of that, too.
Really?
And don't forget about our senses. Sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell.
All of them.
The cerebrum processes them all. It's a
Wow.
real powerhouse.
Powerhouse. Now, the cerebrum, it sounds like the CEO of the brain.
Right.
And I remember reading that it's divided into two hemispheres,
Yes.
connected by the corpus callosum.
Right?
What's the significance of that?
That's a great point. It's like having two specialized teams working together.
Two teams.
Yeah. The left hemisphere often handles tasks like language and logic,
Yeah.
while the right hemisphere excels in spatial awareness and creativity.
Wow.
And the corpus callosum acts as a bridge.
Ensuring constant communication between them.
So it's not just about having two halves of the brain.
No,
It's about the collaboration between them.
exactly.
Okay, now let's delve deeper into the brainstem.
The brainstem.
Yeah, the article describes it as the connection between the cerebrum and the spinal cord.
Yeah.
But what exactly does it do?
Think of the brainstem as the unsung hero.
Unsung hero.
Yeah, working tirelessly behind the scene
Behind the scenes.
to keep us alive.
Keep us alive.
It controls many essential functions
Okay.
that we don't consciously think about, like breathing,
Oh, wow.
heart rate,
Uh-huh.
and blood pressure.
Wow.
Without the brainstem, we wouldn't survive.
We wouldn't survive.
It's the operations manager, if you will,
Operations
to
management.
make sure everything runs smoothly.
It sounds absolutely crucial.
It is.
The article also mentions 3 parts within the brainstem:
Yeah.
the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla.
Uh-huh.
What are their roles?
Each part has its own set of responsibilities.
Responsibilities. The midbrain helps us react to environmental changes and
Right.
plays a role in movement.
Okay.
It's also involved in processing auditory information
Yeah.
and even contains the substantia nigra,
Substantia nigra.
which is affected in Parkinson's disease.
Oh, wow. So the midbrain helps us jump into action when we hear a loud noise
Yeah.
or we see something unexpected.
Oh, exactly. It's about quick responses and coordinating movements.
Right. Oh, wow.
The pons, on the other hand,
Pons.
is like a nerve hub.
Uh-huh.
It's involved in controlling facial expressions,
Okay.
eye movements,
Mhm.
and even tear production.
So when I'm tearing up during a sad movie,
Yes.
that's my pons in action.
You got it. And then there's the medulla,
The medulla.
which is responsible for those vital life-sustaining functions we talked about.
Yeah.
regulating heart rhythm,
Okay.
breathing,
Yeah.
blood flow.
Wow.
It also controls reflexes like sneezing and swallowing.
The medulla sounds like the ultimate multitasker.
It is.
And what about the spinal cord?
The spinal cord.
Isn't that connected to the brainstem as well?
It is.
Okay.
The spinal cord extends from the medulla
Okay.
and acts as a superhighway relaying messages between the brain and the rest of the body.
The superhighway.
Yeah.
Okay, we've covered the cerebrum and the brainstem.
Right.
Now let's talk about that little brain
Okay.
tucked in the back. The cerebellum.
Cerebellum.
What's its claim to fame?
Well, it might be little,
Yeah.
but the cerebellum is a powerhouse for coordination and balance.
For balance.
Yeah, think about walking,
Okay.
riding a bike,
Uh-huh.
playing a musical instrument.
Yeah.
Any activity requiring smooth, precise movements relies heavily on the cerebellum.
Okay.
It's constantly making adjustments to maintain our posture and equilibrium.
So if I'm dancing and not tripping over my own feet,
Yes,
I can thank my cerebellum.
absolutely. And research is now showing that the cerebellum's role might be even broader than we initially thought, potentially impacting areas like thought,
Thought.
emotions, and social behavior.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is.
It seems like there's always something new to discover about the brain.
Always.
But before we dive deeper into those discoveries,
Yes.
let's talk about how this vital organ is protected.
Okay.
The article mentions the meninges.
Yes.
What are they exactly?
The meninges are 3 layers of protective membranes that surround the brain and spinal cord.
3 layers.
Imagine them as a high-tech suit of armor,
Armor.
shielding these delicate structures from injury.
So they're like the brain's personal bodyguards.
Yes.
The article specifically mentions the dural mater,
Yeah.
the arachnoid mater,
Uh-huh.
and the pia mater.
Right.
What's the difference between those?
Think of it as a layered defense system.
Okay.
The dura mater is the outermost layer,
Okay.
tough and fibrous,
Stuff.
providing the first line of defense.
First line of defense.
Beneath that is the arachnoid mater,
Arachnoid.
a web-like layer that helps cushion the brain.
Cushion the brain.
And finally, there's the pia mater,
Pia mater.
a thin, delicate membrane that hugs the brain's surface, rich with blood vessels.
So it's like a triple layer protection plan
Yeah.
for the brain.
Right.
But there's also that special fluid surrounding the brain, right?
Yes.
The cerebrospinal fluid.
Exactly. You can think of cerebrospinal fluid,
Cerebrospinal fluid.
or CSF,
CSF.
as a sophisticated shock absorber.
Shock absorber.
That also helps to nourish and cleanse the brain.
Oh, wow.
It circulates between those layers of the meninges,
A menini.
providing a constant bath for the brain and spinal cord.
Wow, the brain really has an impressive security detail.
It does.
Okay, now let's move on to those famous lobes of the brain.
The lobes.
I always get mixed up.
No worries, there's a lot to remember.
I know.
Each hemisphere of the cerebrum is divided into 4 lobes: frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal.
Cool.
Each one has a specific set of functions,
Okay.
but they all work together seamlessly.
Okay, all right, let's start with the frontal lobe.
Frontal lobe.
It's right behind our forehead,
It is.
so it must be pretty important.
It absolutely is. Think of the frontal lobe as the control center for your personality,
Personality.
decision-making,
Huh?
planning,
Wow.
and even some aspects of language.
Language, too.
It's what allows us to set goals, make judgments, and control our impulses.
So if I'm trying to resist that extra slice of cake, that's my frontal lobe battling my cravings.
Exactly. And importantly,
Yeah.
the frontal lobe houses Broca's area,
Broca's area.
a region crucial for speech production.
So damage to Broca's area could affect someone's ability to speak fluently.
Yes, precisely.
Wow.
Now, moving back a bit, we have the parietal lobe.
Parietal lobe.
It's all about processing sensory information. Touch, temperature,
Okay.
pain, pressure.
Uh-huh.
It helps us understand spatial relationships,
Facial relationships.
knowing where our body is in space.
So if I close my eyes and reach for a glass of water,
Yeah,
my parietal lobe is helping me locate it.
that's right. It integrates information from our senses to create a map of our surroundings. Wow.
And just like the frontal lobe has Broca's area,
Yeah.
the parietal lobe contains Wernicke's area,
Wernicke's area.
which is essential for understanding language.
So much is going on in just one area.
A lot.
Yeah, it seems like every part of the brain has a critical role to play.
It does.
Okay, what about the occipital lobe?
The occipital lobe.
That's at the back of the head, right?
Yes, and its main function is all about vision.
Vision.
The occipital lobe receives input from our eyes
Okay.
and processes that information to create the images we see.
Oh, wow.
It's like a sophisticated image processor,
Image processor.
interpreting shapes, colors, and movements to help us make sense of the visual world.
So every time I admire a beautiful sunset, I can
Brilliant.
thank my occipital lobe for making that experience possible.
Exactly.
And finally, we have the temporal lobe,
Temporal lobe.
located on the sides of the head.
Right.
This lobe is involved in memory, language, and auditory processing.
Uh-huh.
So if I remember a song from my childhood...
Or recognize a familiar voice.
Yes,
That's my temporal lobe at work.
that's right. And interestingly,
Yeah.
the temporal lobe also plays a role in our sense of smell,
Smell.
along with the frontal lobe.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's amazing how interconnected everything is.
it is.
So we've explored the main parts of the brain,
Mm,
the cerebrum, the brainstem, and the cerebellum,
right.
and even delved into those 4 lobes
Yeah.
of the cerebrum.
hmm
What's next on our brain journey?
Let's go even deeper and explore some of the other fascinating structures hidden within the brain,
Hidden within the brain.
each with its own specialized function.
Sounds intriguing. Let's dive in.
Okay.
All right, we're back and ready to delve deeper into some of the brain's hidden wonders.
Hidden wonders.
Yeah, we've covered the major players, the cerebrum, the brainstem, and the cerebellum.
Uh-huh.
But what about those other intriguing structures
Intrigued.
tucked away inside?
It's like exploring a secret garden within the brain.
Secret garden.
These structures might be smaller, but they're no less important. Each one plays a crucial role in orchestrating this complex symphony
Symphony.
of our thoughts, emotions, and actions.
I am all ears. Let's start with the pituitary gland.
The pituitary gland.
I've heard it called the master gland.
The master gland.
What makes it so powerful?
Think of the pituitary gland as the conductor of an orchestra.
Conductor.
It's tiny, about the size of a pea,
A pea.
but it regulates the activity of many other glands in the body,
Many other glands.
controlling everything from growth and metabolism
Growth and metabolism.
to stress responses and even reproductive functions.
Wow.
It's constantly sending out hormonal signals,
Signal.
ensuring that everything is in harmony.
Wow. That's a lot of responsibility for such a small gland.
It is.
But it doesn't work in isolation, right?
You're right. It's all about teamwork.
Teamwork.
The pituitary gland receives instructions from its close neighbor, the hypothalamus.
The hypothalamus.
The hypothalamus is like the brain's internal thermostat,
A thermostat.
monitoring things like body temperature,
Okay.
hunger, thirst,
Yeah.
and sleep cycles.
Wow.
It sends signals to the pituitary gland, telling it which hormones to release and when.
So the hypothalamus is calling the shots.
Yeah.
And the pituitary gland is carrying out those orders.
Right.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What about the amygdala?
The amygdala.
I've heard it's associated with fear and emotion.
Fear and emotion.
Is that true?
That's right. The amygdala is a small almond-shaped structure
Almond shape.
that plays a key role in processing emotions.
Okay.
Especially those related to survival,
Survival.
like fear and anger.
Okay.
It helps us react quickly to potential threats,
So it's
triggering the fight or flight response.
so when I see a spider
A spider?
and jump back in fear,
Yes,
that's my amygdala sending out an alarm signal.
exactly.
Wow.
It's our brain's way of keeping us safe in potentially dangerous situations.
Safe.
The amygdala is also involved in positive emotions,
Positive emotions too.
playing a role in our response to rewards and pleasurable experiences.
Oh, so it's not all doom and gloom then?
Yo.
What about the hippocampus?
Hippocampus.
I remember reading that it's involved in memory.
Memory.
But how does it work exactly?
The hippocampus is crucial for forming new memories,
New memories.
especially those related to facts and events.
Okay.
Imagine it as the brain's librarian, carefully cataloging new information and storing it in the appropriate shelves
Thus.
of long-term memory.
So if I meet someone new and remember their name later,
Yeah,
that's thanks to my hippocampus.
exactly.
Right.
It helps convert those short-term memories into long-term ones.
Short term to long term.
And it also plays a role in spatial navigation,
Spatial navigation.
helping us find our way around and remember locations.
Like our internal GPS.
Exactly.
Wait, what about the pineal gland? I've heard it has something to do with sleep.
The pineal gland
Yeah.
might be tiny, but it plays a vital role in regulating our sleep-wake cycles.
Sleep-wake cycles.
It's sensitive to light and darkness, producing melatonin,
Melatonin.
the hormone that makes us sleepy.
So as the sun sets,
Yes,
our pineal gland starts pumping out melatonin,
that's right.
signaling to our bodies that it's time to wind down.
Exactly.
Like our internal
The
clock,
internal clock.
keeping us in sync with the natural rhythms of day and night.
Right.
Incredible. And lastly, what about those ventricles and cerebrospinal fluid?
Ventricles.
Yeah, we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
What's their role in all of this?
Remember how we compared cerebrospinal fluid, or CSF,
CSF.
to a shock absorber
Uh-huh.
and cleansing agent
Cleansing agent.
for the brain?
Yeah.
Well, the ventricles are a network of interconnected cavities within the brain
Cavity.
that produce and circulate this vital fluid.
So they're like the CSF factories.
Yeah,
Ensuring a constant supply to bathe and protect the brain.
exactly.
They're essential for maintaining the brain's health and optimal functioning. This is all so fascinating.
It is.
It's like we've zoomed in on a microscopic level, exploring the inner workings of these incredible structures within the brain.
Yeah.
But let's zoom back out for a moment and talk about how these different parts communicate with each other.
Okay.
We've mentioned neurons,
Neurons.
those specialized nerve cells that act as messengers.
Messengers?
But how do they actually transmit signals?
That's a great point.
I imagine it's a pretty sophisticated system.
It is. Think of each neuron like a tiny tree
Tiny tree.
with branches called dendrites that receive incoming signals.
Dendrites.
These signals travel down the neuron's trunk, called the axon,
The axon?
and then are transmitted to the next neuron
The next neuron.
across a tiny gap called a synapse.
A synapse. So it's
Yeah.
like a chain reaction
Chain reaction.
with each neuron passing the message along to the next one.
Exactly.
And the communication at the synapse
At the synapse.
is where things get really interesting. It involves the release of chemical messengers called neurotransmitters.
Neurotransmitter.
Neurotransmitters, aren't those chemicals like dopamine and serotonin
Yes.
that we always hear about
Yeah.
in relation to mood and mental health?
Yes. There are many types of neurotransmitters,
Many types.
each with specific effects on our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
Okay.
Dopamine, for example,
Dopamine.
is often associated with pleasure and reward,
Pleasure.
while serotonin plays a role in mood regulation and sleep.
So when I feel happy or motivated,
Yes.
it's because of these tiny chemical messengers zipping around in my brain.
It's a bit more complex than that,
Okay.
but essentially, yes.
Okay.
It's a delicate dance
I think that.
between electrical and chemical signals, all orchestrated by those billions of neurons working together.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
What about neuroplasticity?
Neuroplasticity.
I've heard that our brains are constantly changing and rewiring themselves based on our experiences.
Based on experiences.
Is that true?
It absolutely is.
It is.
Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's incredible ability to adapt and rewire itself throughout our lives.
Throughout our lives.
Every time we learn something new,
Yeah.
have a new experience,
Okay.
or even just think a certain way,
Wow.
our brains are forming new connections and strengthening existing ones.
That's amazing. So our brains aren't static. They're constantly evolving.
Exact.
And this ability to adapt is crucial for our survival and well-being.
crucial.
It's what allows us to learn from our mistakes,
Right.
develop new skills,
Yeah,
and even recover from brain injuries.
it is.
So if I want to learn a new language or pick up a new hobby,
Mm-hmm.
my brain is up for the challenge.
Absolutely. Challenging our brains with new activities and learning experiences is one of the best ways to keep them healthy and vibrant.
I love that. Learning and trying new things keeps us young,
Keeps us young.
both mentally and physically.
Exactly.
But what about those times when we feel stressed or overwhelmed?
Stress.
Yeah, does that affect our brains?
Unfortunately, chronic stress can be detrimental to brain health.
Detrimental.
It can impair memory,
Memory.
make it harder to focus,
Focus.
and even contribute to feelings of anxiety and depression.
That sounds serious.
Yeah.
So managing stress is crucial for protecting our brains.
Absolutely.
Finding healthy ways to cope with stress is essential.
It is.
Things like exercise,
exercise.
meditation,
Yeah.
spending time in nature,
Mm-hmm.
or connecting with loved ones can make a big difference.
Big difference.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about creating a more balanced and supportive environment for our brains to thrive.
Right.
Any other brain-boosting tips we should know about?
We've touched on it before.
Yeah.
But I want to emphasize the importance of sleep.
Sleep.
When we sleep, our brains are busy consolidating memories, clearing out waste products,
Okay.
and essentially recharging for the next day.
So getting those 7 to 8 hours of shut-eye is non-negotiable for a healthy brain,
As much as possible, yes.
as much as possible.
Make sleep a priority.
Okay.
It's one of the best gifts you can give your brain.
Noted. This has been an incredible journey.
Has.
We've explored the brain's intricate structure, its remarkable function,
remarkable functions.
and even learned how to keep it healthy and thriving.
Thriving.
What's next on our brain adventure?
In our final part, we'll shift our focus to something just as crucial as understanding how the brain works.
Okay.
How to keep our brains healthy and functioning at their best throughout our lives.
Now, that's something I'm definitely interested in. Stay tuned, folks,
Stay tuned.
as we explore some practical tips for optimizing brain health in the final part of our deep dive.
Our final part.
Welcome back, brain enthusiasts. We've journeyed through the brain's intricate structure, explored its remarkable functions, and even delved into the mysteries of memory.
The mysteries of memory.
But now let's shift gears and talk about something crucial.
Crucial.
How can we keep our brains healthy and thriving throughout our lives?
Well, it's like having this incredible high-performance machine, you know,
Yeah.
and wanting to make sure it stays in top shape.
Top shape.
Luckily, there's a lot we can do to support brain health.
Okay.
It's not about, like, one magic solution,
Right.
but rather a holistic approach.
Okay, so no brain-boosting miracle pills, but a combination of healthy habits.
Right,
I'm ready to hear what works.
right.
What's the first thing on the list?
Well, you might be surprised to learn that physical exercise isn't just good for our bodies.
Right.
It's essential for our brains, too.
For our brains.
Think of it as a workout for your mind as well as your muscles.
So hitting the gym or going for a run isn't just about fitting into those jeans. It's about
It's about keeping our brains sharp.
keeping our brains sharp.
Exactly. Regular exercise increases blood flow to the brain,
Okay.
which means more oxygen and nutrients for those busy brain cells.
More oxygen, more nutrients.
It also boosts the production of something called BDNF,
BDNF, what is that?
brain-derived neurotrophic factor,
Okay.
which helps protect and grow brain cells.
So exercise helps nourish and protect our brains.
Yes.
What else could we do?
Diet plays a crucial role as well.
Diet.
Just like our bodies need a balanced diet to function properly, so do our brains.
So those blueberries and salmon we keep hearing about,
Uh-huh.
they're good for more than just our taste buds.
Absolutely. They're packed with antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids,
Okay.
which are especially beneficial for brain health.
Brain health.
Think of them as brain-boosting fuel.
Brain boosting fuel.
And don't forget about staying hydrated.
Yeah.
Our brains are mostly water, after all.
Right. Exercise, healthy diet, hydration, check, check, check.
Check, check, check.
What else should we be doing to keep our brains happy?
Mental stimulation is key.
Mental stimulation.
Our brains thrive on challenges and new experiences.
Okay.
It's like keeping our mental muscles flexed and toned.
So challenging our brains with new activities and learning new skills is crucial.
It is.
Like learning a new language or taking up a musical instrument.
Exactly. Even simple things like reading, doing puzzles, or engaging in social activities can help keep our brains active and engaged.
So it's really about keeping our brains active.
Active.
The more we challenge ourselves mentally,
Yeah,
the better our brains function.
right.
I love that. Learning and trying new things keeps us young, both mentally and physically.
It does.
But what about those times when we feel stressed or overwhelmed?
Does that affect our brains?
Unfortunately, chronic stress can be detrimental to brain health.
Detrimental again.
It can impair memory, make it harder to focus,
Right.
and even contribute to feelings of anxiety and depression.
That sounds serious.
It is.
So managing stress is crucial for protecting our brains.
It is
Finding healthy ways to cope with stress is essential.
essential.
Things like exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, or connecting with loved ones can make a big difference.
It can.
Makes sense. It's about creating a more balanced and supportive environment for our brains to thrive.
Any other brain-boosting tips we should know about?
We've touched on it before,
Well, yeah.
but I want to emphasize the importance of sleep.
Sleep.
When we sleep, our brains are busy consolidating memories, clearing out waste products, and essentially recharging for the next day.
It's so important.
It is.
So getting those 7 to 8 hours of shut-eye is non-negotiable for a healthy brain.
As much as possible, yes.
As much as possible.
Make sleep a priority.
Okay.
It's one of the best gifts you can give your brain.
Noted. This has been an incredible journey.
It has.
We've explored the brain's intricate structure, its remarkable functions,
Remarkable.
and even learned how to keep it healthy and thriving.
And thriving.
It really highlights the importance of ongoing research and discovery.
Absolutely.
And as we learn more about the brain,
Yeah,
we unlock even greater possibilities for understanding ourselves and the world around us.
we do.
Thanks for joining us on this brain-boosting adventure.
Thank
Until next time, keep those brains engaged and keep exploring the fascinating world of knowledge.